Hello viewers, it's Late Night Retro. Today let's look at 5 NES games you may not have known about. This list is in no specific order, so just sit back, relax, let me know if you played any of these games, or even heard of them.
Number 5.
Alright, number 5 on our list is Huang Di, Zulus Ezine. It's an unlicensed Taiwanese game developed by Asder and published by NTDEC. Little is known about this game, including its release date. Asder manufactures children's learning toys, and it prides itself in doing so for more than 21 years. They consider themselves one of the world leaders in that industry. My question is, what was Asder doing involving itself in the bootleg market of Famicom games in the 80s and 90s? The company that published this game, NTDEC, produced a large number of unlicensed copies of games between 1989 and 1991. The games were sold in Asia, and in the US you could buy them through mail orders. Now NTDEC ran into some legal trouble from Nintendo. In 1993, Nintendo sued them for their activities in the US, and as well as the use of the Nintendo trademark in its company's name. So some scandalous shit. And that's what I know. Now this game is far from an educational staple that Asder prides itself on. It's actually a pretty unique, far-out platforming experience. Huang Di isn't gonna blow you away with epic gameplay. I became mostly interested in it for its visuals and its sound. I only wish I could read the text or play like a translated version to find out what the story's about. The game's title translated is reference to a great war involving the Yellow Emperor, Huang Di, and Qi Yu. Just playing the game though and seeing some of the cutscenes, I have no idea why it's named that. One cutscene, your guy's riding on a sword. I don't know if that happened in history, but it happens in this game. You have the option to take control of 1 or 2 ninjas. Nothing varies from them but their art style. You'll battle through levels, picking up power-ups, extra lives, and weapon upgrades. The map screen is reminiscent of Ghosts and Goblins. Each stage has 2 levels, and once they're beat, you'll move on to a new spot on the map. And rinse and repeat. Now if you die on stage 2 of a level, even on a boss fight, they make you start from stage 1 again. There are no checkpoints. The game is fairly easy, so it's not too much of a hassle. The bosses are strange. You'll find yourself battling a serpent's head as it pops in and out of the sky, fighting what appears to be an alien in a lab coat, or bloodying a woman's face who pops her head in and out of walls. In fact, most everything feels a little strange. I guess that's why this game holds some charm in my eyes. I'd recommend firing it up just to experience it.
Number 4.
Number 4 on our list is Qboy, not to be confused with the Famicom clone system by Sachin, or the UK rapper who I guess exists. Qboy is an unlicensed Famicom game. It was released in 1994. It's a colorful platformer. It looks a little like Kirby or Kid Dracula. You control Qboy, who's a strange looking fellow. He's an oversized boy's head with oversized boots and what looks like a Santa hat. I guess the developer thought he was a strange looking dude as well, because if you hit start, then select, the game will switch off Qboy to a trailer trash looking Mario. When you make the switch between Qboy and Mario, the sprites of the enemies will change as well, and the power-ups will become rip-offs from Mario games. Now with the Mario rip-off aside, this game isn't like any I've played. It's quite original. It focuses around a power meter. The meter becomes drained when you use your attack or your jump ability. Qboy can jump multiple times in the air. Each jump takes a block of your energy bar. Your attack takes half a bar, and the charged attack takes a full bar. Now when your power meter is empty, you'll lose control of Qboy, and he'll sit to rest. If you're not attacking or you're resting, your energy bar will begin to recharge. This meter at first will feel like a buzzkill or a hindrance, but soon you'll see how its integration makes for some challenging, unique, and rewarding experiences. The restriction of your movements and attacks placed on you by this bar will require some minor puzzle solving, or more like plotting, on how to make your moves efficiently, so you don't end up dead or having to rest. Sometimes you'll find a power-up that gives you unlimited power for a period of time. The game will sprinkle these power-ups in parts of levels, and then it'll have you scaling large gaps with your jump ability while avoiding enemies. This is just another part of the game's design to keep it fresh. Enemies don't die to your attacks like a standard platformer. You will need to use the puffs of wind that you blow to knock enemies to the edge of the screen, into other enemies or walls to kill them. The game does a good job with placement of enemies along with its level design to keep you on your toes, while devising ways to kill your foes using the 3 aforementioned ways without ending up dead or without energy. The boss fights are a lot of fun. You'll use your attacks to typically knock projectiles back at the boss while floating through the air to avoid them or their attacks. All around, Qboy feels like a pretty good game for an unlicensed title, and I would recommend checking it out.
Number 3.
Number 3 on the list is Metal Force, a platformer that draws some influence from Mega Man, but doesn't play like it whatsoever. The comparison really comes from the setting and style of the game. If I had to describe what it plays like, it would be Shadow of the Ninja mixed with the Famicom version of Power Blade. The game was made by OpenCorp in 1994, a developer out of Korea who made a few handfuls of unlicensed titles, most on the Sega Master System. OpenCorp did develop one officially licensed release, Bubble Bobble, for the Game Gear, released the same year as this game. Metal Force is the last game released by OpenCorp before they seemingly vanished. In Metal Force, you start with a few lives and no continues. You'll collect more along the way from enemies or as items that are off the beaten path. The game is fairly easy. Most of its difficulty comes from not knowing what to expect ahead of you. It'll put you in a few spots that kind of feel cheap, like taking a platform upward and then not knowing there are spikes above you, so you should have jumped off. There aren't a lot of these situations, so it never becomes annoying or frustrating. It'll just take a bit of minor trial and error. The game and the levels are pretty short in Metal Force, and the bosses require minimal effort. Throughout the game's 7 levels, there's no story until the end, where they greet you with a cutscene and a hint that we'll be seeing a part 2, but sadly, it never was created. Now I say sadly, but if I'm being honest, I'm not that heartbroken over it. This game isn't going to keep you at the edge of your seat and have you talking about it at the water cooler the next day. It's simply a fun short game that graphically isn't bad and has good controls. I enjoyed the timing aspect of killing enemies instead of savagely slashing through them. The stage designs were good, and the game had no auto-scrollers, glitches, or hang-ups, and for those reasons, I recommend checking it out.
Number 2.
Number 2 on our list is Bio Senshi Dan, released in 1987 for the Famicom. This game is exclusive to Japan. The US version was finished, but it was never released. This game is developed by Atlas and it was published by Jalico. This is the only licensed game on the list, and is what stopped the list from being 5 unlicensed games to 5 obscure games. I put this game on the list for most of the reasons I put Huang Di on here. The game just has that far out feel, and for being a 1987 release, it was pretty solid. This game feels like a mix of Metroid, Zelda 2, Castlevania, and most definitely Xerxes. Unfortunately, the game falls short of every single one of those titles. While not being a bad game, it's not a great one. You control Dan, who is a warrior who goes back in time to stop an alien invasion that happens in the future. There are 5 levels to this game, with many different paths and areas to explore. Along the way, you'll encounter doorways with inhabitants in them, offering hints, items, or currency, very reminiscent of Xerxes. Some doorways just have strange old men in them, telling me that they're alone, but are a good guy, or whatever. It was fun exploring, but at the same time quite frustrating. The boss gains more life the longer you take to reach him. So while there are often areas to explore, if you spend too much time adventuring, the boss can grow really strong. Also, the enemies in this game feel very sporadic. Couple that with some stiff controls and some situations will seem unfair or unavoidable as you take buckets of damage. This game also has one of the roughest knockbacks I've seen in an NES game, and it puts you in some instant death situations. This could have been a really good title with just some better controls and more thought out enemy design. I still think this game's worth trying, and as I played it I wondered to myself if it would have been a cult hit in the US like Xerxes was. The first 3 levels are easy enough to navigate through if you wanted to get a feel for the game and see what it's about. So yeah, check it out.
Number 1.
Alright, I know I said there would only be 1 licensed game on this list, and that was my intentions. For the number 1 slot, the game was going to be Coco Adventure, an unlicensed platformer by OpenCorp that was released in Korea. Coco Adventure was planned to be released in the US as Buzz and Wall Dog, but it never came to fruition. However, its prototype exists. Buzz and Waldog is a cartoony and generic game. It is short and colorful, containing graphics from Mario games, along with the sound engine from Tiny Toon Adventures. Your goal is to scale and explore levels looking for keys. Once all the keys are collected, you move on to the next level. The stages are sometimes broken up with boss fights, where you will avoid projectiles and use your spin attack to defeat them. Well, here's the thing, while playing Biosenshi Dan, I was surprised by Jalico for putting their name behind this Xyz wannabe. When I think Jalico, I'm thinking bases loaded, so I was legitimately curious to what else they were up to. Were they trying to shake off this baseball stigma? And that's when I ran into another game called Squashed. Like Biosenshi Dan wanted to be Xyz, Squashed wants to be Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, unlike Biosenshi Dan, Jalico developed as well as published this game. It was released in Japan in 1991 as Ninja Jaja Maru Jinga da Sakusen, and again we did not see the release in the US. Rumor on the internet is Nintendo asked or demanded that Jalico not release this game in the States due to its similarities to Mario 3, but that cannot be confirmed. While some of the game definitely feels like or resembles something you'd see in Mario 3, this game does have a few unique twists of its own. You can charge up a running attack like in a Sonic game. This will allow you to spin through enemies and make longer jumps. There are parts of the game that let you climb walls, and there are a few power-ups and weapons to collect. The game doesn't so much play like Mario 3, but instead just borrows some visuals and ideas. I really enjoyed Squash, and I'm glad I stumbled upon it. Nice try, Jalico. I will always think fondly of you from the Bases Loaded 1 days, where I was rocking New Jersey and knocking balls out the park as paste. Well folks, that's it. 5 NES games you may not have known about. This has been Late Night Retro. Thank you for watching. Until next time.